Okay, one watching. Hello? Is anybody there? Okay, I'm trying to figure this out. Oh, trying to figure it out. Intro video should be playing. Okay. Excellent connection. Current viewers, let's see. Can somebody tell me if it's working? Hi, Paul. I'm confused here. So, just give me a few minutes. I got things set up. Can you hear me okay? All right. Let's see. Now, is it just you, Paul? One current viewer. Is that still playing in the background? Hi. Okay, so you can hear me. That's good. That's good. I'm going to try this. I'm nervous and I don't know if it's going to be okay. I got to get a new mic, so. Hi, Eric. Hi, Paul. This is about borderline personality disorder. Hi, Shrimpy. I don't know what I'm doing, so, how do I add people for, like, the chat to monitor it? Because I got chat rules. Yeah, I have chat rules. Unfortunately, with borderline, you have to have the chat rules because there's a lot of, triggers and stuff that can happen to people. So I need to know how to give somebody a hammer. So this is the first thing I wanted to put up was the chat rules. Click the circle. What circle? Is there the three circles? Oh, so add moderator, Shrimp? Is that how I do it? Okay, so you're a moderator, Shrimpy. All right, I got it. Thank you so much. Yeah, unfortunately, with borderline personality disorder, it's a very sensitive topic, and people, borderlines are known for trying to commit suicide and self-harm, like cutting. So I really need the rules to be followed. I'll read it because this is a sensitive topic and many in the chat may have a mental health condition we do not understand. I cannot tolerate some things in the chat to go on. Triggers are very different for everyone. We are responsible for our own actions and reactions. However, not all of us can recognize what is and isn't a trigger. For this reason, the rules need to be set and followed. No one is exempt. Thank you. Don't mean to do that. I know we're all friends here, so. Hi, Cobalt Blue. Nervous. This is my first one. So anyways, the first rule, because it's such a sensitive subject, only because it's such a sensitive subject, you guys are my friends. I'll have other chats where we can forego the rules a little bit, but right now, with the borderline topic, I have to keep the rules. There's absolutely no discrimination of any kind, no matter what. And I understand, like I said, we're friends and stuff, but we don't know who's going to be here and who isn't. So I don't want to trigger anybody. And like I said, it's very easy for a borderline person, especially, to go into a trigger to where they spiral down and they try to commit suicide or cut. And we don't ever want that. There's absolutely no discrimination of any kind, no matter what. Hate speech, whether a group is included in the Constitution of our United States or anybody's Constitution, wherever they live or not, I can't tolerate it. If you do not realize it, reach out, apologize, and try to word your comment differently. Be very mindful of the words you choose. Please, please, please. Please, under no circumstances are you to give out personal information. If you share your location, please only give a general description, i.e. USA, Africa, Australia, etc. We do not know the person behind the name at all. Do not give out birth dates or phone numbers or anything. The only phone number that is allowed to be shared is suicide or domestic violence hotlines in your area, or the number where you can find information for the necessities like insurance, food, shelter, finding a physician, and so on. In the USA, it is 211. The reason for that, again, is, we don't know who a potential stalker is or somebody who's going to go out and murder somebody. And it's not that you all are bad people. It's not that anybody's a bad person. It's just we don't know. And that's what I'm teaching my daughter too. She's in school right now. Can you tell? Please keep your comments PG rated. I would love to help everyone, and that means including younger kids if they're there. However, if you know a person is a minor and they want to discuss things and it's one of those topics you would discuss with your kid, you need to direct them to their parents, legal guardians, or another trusted adult in their personal life. We don't want to infringe on a parent's rights to know their kid and what their kid's doing. I wouldn't want it for my daughter. I don't want it for your kids. Any medical advice to put into play immediately, like if you're saying take medicines or something like that, or somebody's doing that, that would otherwise come from a physician or a psychiatrist or therapist, it needs to come from the individual's private professional in those areas. Now, with physicians normally, and you can ask Dr. Fleming or even Dr. McCarn, even though Dr. Fleming is a heart doctor, if he didn't know the case, and hi Jen, if he didn't know the case and it wasn't his patient and he couldn't read a file and their ins and outs of what they're allergic to, all their vitals and all that, he really can't diagnose over the internet, and he can't give too much advice over the internet. He can give generalized advice. A person without a degree should in no way be given advice. I don't have a degree, but I know I'm going to try to steer clear from certain areas with the psychiatry part of it. And it happened when I was looking up things for this video. There's something I'm not going to show because it's for the psychiatrist. So any medical advice to put into play immediately that would otherwise come from a physician, psychiatrist, or therapist needs to come from the individual's private professional in those areas. We can suggest things all we want. Like suggesting if somebody goes out for a walk to relieve their stress and stuff, that's okay. Because a walk's really not going to harm them unless they're in a dangerous area where they're going to be shot to death or something. Then I could see that would be a bad suggestion. But use your discretion and use your intelligence. Even people with BPD or other mental health conditions do not necessarily have a problem with their intelligence. Many of them are very intelligent. So we can suggest things all we want, but only their personal medical health professional team can say what is right for them. And then number 5, just have fun. Have fun. All right. Now I'm going to shut that down. How'd I do? I'm not going to read that every time. I will put it up though. From time to time, if I see people are getting out of hand, if I get new people. So we're gonna shut that down, and I'm gonna, okay, there's other things. Okay, to the top left of the screen, I'm not good with lefts and rights. There's a picture of me. The NGU on my little coat of arms, I made that. Hi. I made that. NGU means never give up. Means that's the protocol for the suicide prevention. Like I said, borderlines tend to self-harm, which is suicide and cutting. And doing a lot of other risky behaviors, and we'll get into that a little later. But I wanted you to know that that is me in the picture, and that's my little coat of arms. I created that coat of arms. It's not something somebody else made. The suicide prevention hotline is to the bottom right, and I don't know if you could see it in the United States. It's 1-800-273-TALK. It's 8256, I believe. No, 8255. That's in the United States. I am aware that other people in other countries have different suicide hotlines, and I have them, and I got to start linking things in the video, so that way I'd have the link to go to where they could find your country's suicide prevention hotline. And then the awareness ribbons, the teal is for that's for PTSD and complex PTSD awareness. The gray one is the borderline personality awareness ribbon, and then the purple is for domestic violence, and you'll see why I got that. Well, most of you know anyways, that I experienced domestic violence ever since I was little. And now when I tell my history, and when I say things like that, it's not to tell you, oh, poor me, okay, because that's not my attitude. I'm 51. I went through this, and now I want to help other people that are going through it. How'd I do? Am I going too fast for anybody? Am I slurring my speech? Am I doing any of that? Paul, are you okay? All right. That topic overview. I had to put a little bit. Paul, are you there? Oh, okay, okay. I just want to make sure you're okay. I saw a little frowny face. All right. For my introduction video. Hi, Jessa. For my introduction video, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me first. We are going to do some history that I know about BPD. If I find out more, I can tell you in later videos. And I just went over the suicide prevention hotline in the USA. Like I said, I gotta watch the screen. Don't, Shrimp, I gotta watch the screen because I'm a little bit ahead of you guys of the screen. So, the suicide prevention hotline I went over. I'm gonna link the ones for different countries in my description in the videos. Please, if you are down and out and you're in a dark place, reach out, okay, whether you feel you're suicidal or not, because that's not a nice place to be in. They're there to talk to you. The goal is not to get you to the point where you are hurting so bad inside that you just want all the pain to go away and you off yourself. You don't want to do that. And that's what it was for me. It wasn't anybody, and it wasn't because of anybody or because of anything, except for the emotions got too intense. I couldn't handle them. And I needed to turn around and do something about it. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't have this help. Like, I didn't have YouTube. We'll get to that, Jessica, in a few. But Jessica, you need to find a mental health physician, and if you're younger, you need to talk to your parents if you're under your parents' roof, or another adult that you trust. And you need to go to a therapist or a psychiatrist for them to diagnose you if you think you may be bipolar. You need to get the diagnosis, and only a doctor can diagnose you. The suicide prevention hotline is there not only when you're suicidal or you're cutting, it's also there just to talk about your things. All right, Jessa. Um, but you really, but yeah. Jessa, this is my first video, so if I say something wrong, I don't want to be mean or I don't want it to be taken wrong. That's me. So if you call 211, they can give you answers on finding a physician in your area. Oh, that's hard. Okay, we'll be discussing your meds. We'll be discussing meds in this one. Okay. We'll be discussing the medications. Is there a reason you're off your meds? Is it because you can't afford them? Or are you switching doctors? Or is your insurance lapsed? Because you can call 211. I know I go off my meds and I have them here. Sometimes I just forget to take them. What I do is I flip my bottle over when I take them. All right. We're going to discuss this. Did you talk to your doctor about going off the medications? Because they have different medications that they could try, and I know it's hard. Yeah, okay. We can't discuss the medication part of it because I'm not a doctor or a physician, but they have other medications if you talk to your psychiatrist or whoever is prescribing you the medications to try to work, try to get it. Like, okay. Well, I've been diagnosed for years now, and I've been on Cymbalta, and we tried to change it because my PMS got really bad, and we tried to change it to Zoloft. Now, it's been 6 months, and I lost my motivation, and I got depressed on the Zoloft, so we went back to the Cymbalta because the Cymbalta worked. The Zoloft worked on the PMS, but like I said, I lost motivation. So I communicated to my therapist that, or my psychiatrist, that, well, people are going to have to put up with my PMS because I'd rather be motivated and bitchy than Cymbalta, Cymbalta. But anything like this has to come from your doctor. It's C as in cat. YM. And like I said, I can't really give you too many more things about the medications because I am not a mental health professional. I'm not a doctor in no way, shape, or form. I am a person who has BPD and other comorbidities to go along with it, and I'm here to help you. I'm here to help people to try to figure out what to be able, how to be able to manage it, and what I've done to help myself. All right, because this is a real hard diagnosis to swallow for a lot of people. A lot of people have told me on Twitter when I was writing my book, and I'd rather do this for free. I'd rather not write the book. I'd rather help for free, and this gives me away. And they tell me that, oh no, or I see on Twitter, I've been diagnosed with borderline, and oh my God, what am I going to do? And they spiral down into the dark spot, and they get really depressed. And it's not, it maybe way back when it was one of those diagnoses that would make you, that would be devastating. But nowadays, I'm here to give you good news. But borderline is treatable, especially if they catch it when you're younger. Okay. And we'll go over that. And then I'm going to have coffee and chat. Okay. I'm going to give you initial pointers, just initial pointers with the borderline, and that's where the medications are coming in, Jessica. Okay, and then we'll coffee and chat after. I just got to get through this. All right, so anyways, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. All right, now with the borderline, people can turn around and tell me I'm full of shit because I'm not them. Okay, I don't know what they're going through, and this is a common thing with borderlines or depression or anybody really. I mean, it's human nature. Oh, you don't know what I'm going through. You don't know what I've been through. And you know what? You're right. I don't know what you've been through. And you're right. I never went through what you went through. So how can I possibly know how you feel? And that's what me too. How, you guys don't know what I went through. I'm going to tell you, but unless you experience stuff like that and feel it and know, it's very hard for a person without borderline and all that to put themselves in our shoes. All right, first of all, we experience our emotions on a level where if it's a scale from 1 to 10, if you think about a wave graph and 5 being midline, most people go from a 4 to a 6 in that. With borderline, all day long, what we do is go from a 2 to a 10 to a 2, and 2 being the most depressed you have, 0 being the most depressed you've ever been and you want to kill yourself, 10 being the most elated and stuff. We feel those emotions that people are feeling at a level of maybe 4, we feel it at a level 2. Okay, and it's devastating to us, where it's not so devastating to other people. That's when you hear other people say, get over it. I hate that. Just get over it. Let it run off your shoulders. But how? Don't just tell me to let it roll off my shoulders, because I don't know how not to let it roll off the shoulders, especially when my emotions are making me feel so much. And even the pain threshold with a borderline. Not that we're big babies, but our pain is felt at a higher rate than a normal person's pain. So, a lot of people do not understand it. A lot of people do not understand it. So, this is why I'm telling you a little bit about me, to get back to the subject, is I don't know where you're coming from, and you're right. It's a bunch of bullshit. I'm full of shit. I don't know where you've been. I don't know where you're going, and I don't know where you are. And for anybody to say, oh yeah, I know what you're going through, and they don't have borderline or any other mental health issue. Like, if somebody told me, oh, I just had open heart surgery and I'm in a lot of pain, and you don't know what I'm going through, he'd be right. I don't know what he's going through. I never been through open heart surgery, and I'm not going through it. I never had a bad heart. So, I mean, that's normal. With me, when I was a baby and I found out on my mom's deathbed, she died. She didn't understand why I was taking care of her. This is a little bit about me. I'm going to try to keep it short and sweet, which I'm not known for. I'm not known for being able to say things and just drop it. All right. The first months of my life, my mom and dad put my crib in a closet. She diapered me when she felt like it, not when I needed it, and she hardly ever fed me. She neglected me. And this, like I said, this is not an oh, poor me thing. This is the reality of what I started out life as. I did not bond with my mom or anybody from 0 to 1.5, 2 years old. I was neglected. I witnessed my mother and father abusing one another, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but there was a lot of sexual abuse. There was a lot of hitting, a lot of yelling, a lot of fighting, and I was sitting there and I was neglected. Okay, and when you're a baby, your neurons in your brain are forming connections at a higher rate than when you're an adult. So a child is learning constantly. That's why they sleep a lot, because when you sleep, your brain, in a study, I can pick up the study if anybody's interested, and just drop me a note into the comments after this video. There's a study that was done where they actually had people learning something, and they did something where they could image the brain and map out what parts of the brain was doing what, and then they had them go and take a nap. And while they were taking a nap, the brain was doing the same thing it was doing when it was learning. So what they hypothesized, or they found out, was that what your brain is doing is it's taking all that information it learned that day and it's dumping it into a long-term memory, so to speak. So it's taking it from short-term to long-term. That's why it's so important that kids need their sleep after they go to school, and they're learning stuff, so that whatever they learn can be transferred. Now when you're a baby, you're learning all that really fast. So in my formative years, my parents were always arguing. I was neglected. My brother was, Lord knows what else was going on, because, when you're a baby, you don't remember everything. And then when I was 2 years old, we came back to where I live now. I grew up in a different state. I was born in a different state. I grew up in a different state than I was born. We came back here because this is where my mother's family was. And I'm not going to tell you the state. Like I said, no personal information. Probably most people that know me know where I am. And my father used to be a musician. And back then it was the 70s. And, beginning in the 70s. And that's how old I am. I will dox myself there. And I'm before 70s, by the way. I'm 51. I don't mind saying it. It's the best years of my life. It's the new 30. Anyways, so what happened was, my father, back then, when you were in the music business, you got sponsors. And if you got on the radio station with your sponsor and they played your music, it was a big thing. And my father got a sponsor, and they were playing a couple songs of his on the radio. And he was doing a gig in a bar on Christmas, like the 25th into the 26th, okay? So he was at the bar. He was playing at the bar starting the 25th. You know how bars after midnight, it's the 26th, okay? So anyways, he was very proud of himself. So he brought me, my brother, I was 1.5, my brother was 2, and my mother to a bar to watch him play because he was proud. They got drunk, okay? They're both alcoholics, and they're both very, very abusive towards each other, especially while drinking. That's what happens. Well, when you play music, you got to understand that, well, it's just understandable. You see it all the time that the guys get groupies, and the girls get groupies too, but the guys get a lot of women throwing themselves at them. Are you still there? Are we still there? Okay. I'm sorry if I'm putting anybody to sleep with my story. I have to tell my story because I want you to see where I'm coming from. So anyways, my father got liquored up. My mother got liquored up. This woman hit on my father. They get in the car to go home. It's 1 o'clock in the morning on the 26th. Okay? So my mother and father were arguing back and forth with me and my brother in the back car. I'm 1.5. He's 2 years old. And she wanted him to turn the car around and go beat up that lady so that she could beat that lady up, and he wouldn't do it. And it got to the point he hit her over the head with a wrench in front of me and my brother. She opened the car door, to get out when he was driving down the road, but he helped her out. Okay, she didn't jump out. He kind of pushed his foot and helped her out. And he ran over her and dragged her 1.5 blocks. My mother came wasn't supposed to live. She was in a coma for 6 weeks. She came out brain damaged and paralyzed from that accident, and I lost any type of family unit, mother, father, sister, brother, that I had. Me and my brother were made orphans. My grandmother, my mother's mother, turned and took me and my brother in so that we would know each other and we would know half of the family. She was depressed. She was going through re-raising my mom because my mom couldn't walk, talk. She'd go to the bathroom. She had to be re-raised. So my grandmother was re-raising her, and she was raising me and my brother. So I grew up with a more of a handicapped sister than a mother. But I experienced that accident. So that's the complex PTSD right there. Okay. The borderline comes in where those connections, if you remember, I was telling you, all this time your brain is making connections in what you're learning. And in borderline, those connections that are supposed to be going one place are going another. It's like, okay, I'm leaving the house and I'm going to go to work. But wait, I'm going to go and get that coffee at Dunkin' Donuts first. And I stay at Dunkin' Donuts. I never make it to work. And that's kind of like what your brain does. It makes wrong connections. And there's, I mean, that's the layman's term of what's going on in a child's brain or any adult's brain. Okay, that's just, it's not everything that's going on. It's very complex what's going on. But for borderline purposes and what we need to know, and what makes sense if you're just new to this, is your connections did not make it to the right area when you were a kid. All right, the other thing is situation, depending on situations, growing up into your adulthood. I don't need to know everybody's personal experience. I'm just putting mine out there to help people, okay, so that you know where I'm coming from. Now, you turn around and while you're growing up, with me, I grew up with my grandmother. She's depressed herself. She was on hormone and sleeping pills and all that. And she's re-raising my mother. She's raising me and my brother. She's watching the kid that she gave birth to. I mean, her husband tried to murder her. Let that sink in. So my grandmother's a mother that's trying to, and my father. I dated the cop's son that put my father up against the car that night. And the cop told me when I dated, he was trying to get my father on attempted murder charges. They had the proof. They have all the proof. But, and even when I read the newspaper article, it said charges are going to depend on the outcome of basically what my mother. My father was never charged. He went on, he got married, but he ran. He was never around for me and my brother. He ran. So, yeah, well, it's brave, but it's also, if it helps somebody, then I'm all for it, helping people. You know, I mean, I'm just letting you guys know that this is where I'm coming from. I don't have a problem sharing it. I'm 51 years old. It's done. It's past. I'm working through it. There's issues I'm still working through in therapy, and I probably won't be out of therapy anytime soon. But this is relevant to help other people that are going through it when they're in their. I mean, if you're younger and you're going through stuff, it's hard to get out of it when you're a kid, but when you're 21 years old and you're out the door, you're making your own decisions and you got to make the right ones. And if you got borderline, that's not easy. Okay. I understand the whole thing. Okay. So anyways, I was raised by my grandmother who was depressed herself. She didn't have a good life either. And I'm not going to go into her life. So you see, this is history. This is genetic. This is my mother and father, and I will add that I'm not diagnosed with fetal alcohol syndrome, but my mom did drink very heavily while she was pregnant for me. All right. Um, I'm suspecting I do got a little bit of FAS because everything, like my roots of my sinuses were embedded into my, the roots of my top teeth were embedded into my sinuses. They had to pull 8 teeth because my mouth was just too small for my teeth. I was born with my tongue tied, and I also have crooked fingers. Okay. Which the crooked fingers can happen for a number of reasons. They can be genetic, but they can also be indicators of other different types of genetic disorders, which I'm not diagnosed with. So anyways, now the reason why I tell you that is because recent studies, as recent as 2010 all the way up till now, their imaging of the human brain with a borderline patient is showing differences in the sizes of the amygdala and the hippocampus in control people and in borderlines have a significantly reduced volume in, there's right and left hippocampi and right and left amygdala. So you have 4 areas, and it's reduced. And then there's something about prefrontal cortex that's going on, with the BPD. So it's not all, it's a brain disorder. And one of the stigmas of mental health is, oh, it's all in your head, or, oh, get over it, or I don't like that stuff, because you can't. It is all in my head, but guess what? The brain is an organ too. So don't be ashamed that you have borderline or any mental health condition, because you have a brain just like everybody has what is it, a spleen? Everybody has their appendix, everybody has their heart, the brain is an organ. So it stands to reason that if you have a little bit of a difference in structure and changes, that there might be an issue with the firing of your brain. So that's what went on with me. And then I grew up, I was an alcoholic myself from the time I was 17 all the way up to when I was 30. I don't remember a damn thing half the time. Half of it. I was drunk. I was a drunk. All right. At that time, I didn't know I had borderline. All right. They had diagnosed me in my late 20s, I want to say, early 30s, with bipolar. And I'll let you know what the history of all this is, because that's understandable that I was diagnosed with that, because borderline was relatively new and hard to diagnose. Okay. So that is my history. And after my 30s, I quit drinking. And that's when I started to do my growing up and realizations. I was in my 30s, crying my eyes out, saying if I was a better kid, none of that would happen. And then there's that adult side of me that would turn around and say, that is ridiculous, Marie. You were a child. You were living your parents' life with you. You had no control over it. It was their decisions, not yours. So that's where I want to make the point. Okay? With borderline and history and abuse and all that. I got to the point where I can accept that was my mom and dad's stuff. It wasn't my stuff. Unfortunately, I was affected and my brother was affected. and my grandmother was affected. But how can I use that in my life, that realization in my life moving forward? It wasn't my fault. None of it was. And there's still days I have to tell me, none of it was my fault. It's like you gotta say, things happen. It's choices others made that affected me. It's choices other people made. You will hear this in religion, okay? You will hear people questioning God. If God is there, why do bad things happen to good people? That's the eternal question. It's not a point of if God is there, why is there? I'm not going to do the if God is there because not everybody believes in God, and that's okay. Not everybody believes in the same religion, and that is okay. So I'm not going to go there. But if you just ask that question, why do bad things happen to anyone, good or bad alike? There's like 4 fundamental answers. We have every inherent human being has free will. If you got up and you shut off your alarm, got up and made coffee, you willed yourself to make coffee, that's your free will. That's just basic free will. All right? Bad things happen because of choices we make for ourselves, choices others make for us or for themselves things other people make for us, choices. And that would be the children. That would be an adult made a decision for me. And then the other thing is things bad. Okay, I'm nervous with this, so please bear with me. Let me say this again. Bad things happen because of choices we make, first and foremost. Then choices other people make that affect us. And that's what happened in my past and most borderlines past. Okay, stuff that affected us, unfortunately, but wasn't our fault. Things beyond our control. Tsunamis, hurricanes, tornadoes. Can you control a tornado? No. Is it under your control? No. I'd like it to be under my control, but it isn't. You're going to wish all you want. Something somebody else is doing, you can wish all you want, but you're not on control. And then Cobalt, you're right. Sometimes bad things just happen. You're right. That's the 4 fundamentals of it. We have to learn with things that happen in our life, whether they're good or bad, who had control of the situation. Was it me? Was it somebody else? Was it something I couldn't control? Or was it just something that came out of the blue? But bad things just happen. Okay. I lost my job because the plant shut down. Who made that decision to make the plant shut down? Of course, the people higher up. So in actuality, I lost my job because somebody else made a different decision. And it was made for me. I had no control over that. So as hard as it is to move on from losing your job due to something like that, you got to find a way to pick yourself up out of that because it wasn't under your control. You had no control and you can't control it now and you're not going to control it tomorrow. It's done. It's over with. You need to pick yourself out of it. You need to live. Don't kill yourself Because guess what? If I had succeeded in my suicide attempt, I would not have known the best, most beautiful, smart, intelligent woman, young lady in my whole entire life who was called my daughter. And who knows, maybe I'm the one, maybe she's the one that's going to change the world. You never know. If I succeeded in killing myself. God kept me around for some reason because I woke up in the ICU. Okay. I already went over the suicide hotline, so we can, the history of BPD. Okay, BPD, if you're diagnosed today, you're in a good area. It's a good time to be diagnosed with BPD, just to let you know. Back in the 60s and 70s, the people who met the criteria for borderline, it was all in their heads. It wasn't on the books either, and there was no name for it. Okay. We did things just to get us and went into the hospital just to get out of this is their mentality. This isn't what it is, okay? People thought that borderline people went into the hospital all the time because they wanted to escape from their responsibilities. No. Okay? That's the start of the mindset. And that's why it's even got such a negative stigma like that today. I gotta shut it off, don't I? As long as it's my daughter, I'm okay. Then you roll into the 70s, and they're finding out that, wait a minute, these people don't really fit the criteria for bipolar, but they don't fit the criteria for schizophrenic either, schizophrenia. Borderline personality was named because we are on the border of and right between bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. We're right in between there. We don't really meet the criteria for schizophrenia, and we don't meet the criteria for borderline. That is what borderline personality disorder is about. Has nothing to do with, oh, yeah, well, we have a personality or multiple personalities or whatever. That's not what it is. It's because we're in the middle of bipolar and schizophrenia. So that was in the 70s, and then in 1980 they had criteria and it got put in the book. And I forget what the book's called. It's a psychiatry book. It's what they use for criteria and what the psychiatrists use. Now, in 1980, I was in high school. I had tried committing suicide twice. I used to cut the backs of my hands. Very, very, very emotional person. I couldn't figure out how to live or why I was even here. Everybody picked on me. It didn't stop. It didn't stop. Being called names and stuff. It didn't stop at my father's and mother's accident. I was picked on all the while I was growing up, and really mean, to the point where I had a couple people, when they friended me on Facebook, apologize for how mean they were to me. And I said, that was then. Kids are cruel, which they are. And if you're going through it right now, God bless you. Back in my day, these days the kids, they're especially what we went through this past year. Anyways, we're not going to get into that because that's a trigger for me. Okay. So anyway, so it got into the history books in 1980, and then in the 1990s, in 2000 is when I was actually diagnosed bipolar. Well, if it just got into the books in 1980, can I really fault that psychiatrist for putting me in the bipolar instead of the borderline category? Because you got to understand that at this time, even in 2000, even I read it even study last year, even recent study where therapists, and this is bad. This is really bad. Therapists don't want to deal with us because we think they should be at our beck and call. Okay? There's a very, very bad stigma about borderline out there. And that's another thing I want to squash with these videos. Because, I mean, you see it on Keb's chat all the time if somebody brings it up. Oh, I met somebody, they were borderline, they were nuts, they were, oh my God, tried to do this, tried to... You know what? One borderline isn't indicative of all borderlines in the world. Two borderlines isn't indicative of all the borderlines in the world. Okay? Stop. Yes, Cobalt. You got people without borderline or any mental illness that are mean. You know? And, it just, but for some reason, borderlines are attacked still. All right, we should be at their beck and call. No, you got to teach us how to have and I will be in my future videos teaching, showing you what I do. You need a call list. Like, if my therapist isn't available, who do I call next? Okay, the suicide hotline. If nobody's around and your therapist is around, you get on that line, whether you're suicidal or not, if you're depressed, and you talk to them. Or you call 911, or you go to the emergency room, even though you don't want to really end up in a hospital. I ended up an outpatient. I turned around and told them last time, I have a daughter to raise. I can do this in the outpatient. Please don't put me in hospital. And they didn't. They actually gave me, I go through DCF in my life, sure, but that's nothing compared to being able to get out and actually raise my daughter. I mean, I don't mind it. If somebody else can help protect my daughter when I'm not feeling well, then that's half the battle, because I had an abusive man in my house. And that wasn't going to fly anymore. So, yeah, I went from one abusive situation to another abusive situation to another abusive situation. I abused myself. Okay? That's my history, too. So, anyways, oh my God, I'm going in circles, aren't I? I'm so sorry. So, anyways, with the newer studies, they're finding the amygdala, the frontal cortex, the limbic system, the hippocampus, all of that's involved. There's a lot of it's not just cut and dry. DBT and CBT therapy actually work for the most part. There are no drugs that help borderline personality. Just that diagnosis, there's no drugs that work on that. You need to reconnect those connections. We need to work to connect those connections. And the good news is if you're younger, in your 20s, 19, 18, you can do it. It's possible. And then when you're my age, 51, you're not going to meet the criteria for borderline. Why do I say that? Because your brain is constantly, everybody's brain is constantly dumping and loading. If you want an analogy, you got your computer, you have to dump files sometimes. The dump and load, whatever you don't use in a certain amount of time, your brain forgets and it opens up room for more. So, in the last pruning phase that they have, that, I don't know if they've come out with a recent one, but that I know of from last year when I was doing it, is around the age of 27. 25 to 27 is the last brain's pruning phase. So if you can catch yourself and you can do that DBT therapy or CBT therapy within that time, you can retrain your brain, and you can and if you take it seriously and don't miss appointments and actually do the work. you can do it. And you'll feel better. And, you know, the connections will make. The connections, depending on what's going on in your brain and what the doctor says is going on in your brain, you can do it. You can do it. The sky's the limit. And that's the thing. The sky's the limit for you. If you're 18, your brain is actually going through pruning then. 17, 18, 16. Oh, and you know what? I went through DBT and, but I'm 51. Like I said, my brain stopped pruning over 20 years ago. And I just got diagnosed like 4 years ago. Now, and yeah, there's reasons why it didn't work for me. And it's not because if I had this in my arsenal when I was in my 20 to 30, oh my God, I would have taken full advantage of it. Maybe. You can never tell what you're going to do. But yeah, the whole thing is they have that now. And they know that. And they know more about it. And even, it's hard to get a therapist that wants to deal with you. But I got a great therapist. They do have therapists that do psychiatrists. If you look up psychiatrists in your area, they have psychiatrists that specialize in borderline patients. You have to look at their specialty before you pick one. If you have the ability to pick them. I didn't really have the ability, but I got lucky. I got the best team in the world, and that's what it is. It's a team. It's a medical team, and you need a medical team on your side. And we'll talk about that too. How to get your medical. I'll do that with your call list. The medical team is very important, and you are like the head of your medical team. If you want the help and if you're dedicated to it and you're truthful with yourself and with them, then you're gonna get the most out of it. But if you sit there and you're lying to yourself and you're lying to them, then you're not gonna get anything out of it. So you have to be truthful to yourself. I mean, I'm very truthful to everybody. You don't have to be truthful to everybody. You don't have to open up to everybody. It's actually suggested not to, because what I went through with opening up to everybody, not everybody cares about it. And not everybody's concerned about it. Even I'll tell you one thing. I have been fired from every job I've had because of this. Because I don't get along well with others. Believe it or not, those who know me in the chat, I don't get along with others very well, so that's why I get fired. I'm not a people person at all. I could be, but it just wasn't in the cards, So maybe helping others is why I went through what I went through, when I went through it in a certain span. You have hope. It's not a bad diagnosis. We went over the Suicide Hotline. Okay. So I got initial pointers for people with borderline. Okay. I got some pointers. I was going to do it with just stuff like this little window here. This is a screenshot from a PowerPoint, but I didn't want to do the work. I'm lazy. So, sorry. All right, now topic overview, chat rules. Let's do that, and let's go to that. If it will come up, it's not gonna come up. All right, I'm hiding the chat. Okay, here. Come on, move over. Oh, crapola. I'm trying to get this. Don't mind me. All right, I can't see the chat now, just to let you know. So we'll have coffee and chat after. All right, the initial pointers I want to point out to you. Always keep your appointments is the first thing. for your therapist and your psychiatrist. Borderlines tend to miss appointments all the time. I've lost so many therapists because I've missed appointments and they didn't have me diagnosed as borderline. And I am so thankful for the psychiatrist and the therapist that I have now, because if I schedule anything that is not the date and time that I normally have it every week, I miss it. And so now, I'll tell you, at 1 o'clock every Wednesday, I have an appointment with my therapist. My psychiatrist is like right now is every month because I'm adjusting on medications again. I have to schedule it at 1 or I'm going to miss the appointment. I've missed the last 2 appointments with her. And then I scheduled it for 1. And I got it. I was there. So I'm very, I don't know whether that's a borderline thing or not, as far as being very forgetful. I think I'm getting old. That's part of getting old. But if I don't have it scheduled right at the same time, I tend to like forget I have an appointment. And then I'm like, oh crap. Oh crap. Oh, they're gonna let me go, because I've lost so many appointments with other therapists. I've lost other therapists because of missing appointments, that I'm always afraid, and this is typical of borderline, that they're gonna drop me. They're gonna just dump me, leave me out of my life, gone forever. And it puts me into this, like, spirals me down. I get depressed. I'm not gonna lie. You know, when I'm afraid somebody's just gonna leave out of my life, I get so depressed, and I like, I'm frantic, you know, and that's the borderline, because I was basically abandoned by my parental unit when I was a child, and my parents didn't want me. My mom put me in the closet, and my dad put me in the closet. They didn't want me, and they neglected me. So anytime any little thing happens with somebody, I'm like devastated they're gonna leave me. Devastated over apologizing for things. And those who know me from Discord and from Kevin McCarn's chat, they poor Christopher, OC, and Horatius, Kevin even, they've all been very good with me. All right. The other thing is that I have run into time and time again on Twitter, I think, borderline. I think. You don't know? Oh, I think I am. I meet the criteria. We'll talk about criteria after. No. You need to get an appointment with a therapist to get the diagnosis, or a psychiatrist, because it's not that simple. Okay? They have been, I don't know. I mean, yeah. I know too much for my own good with this, but I'm not a doctor, and I can't say you do or don't. A therapist and a doctor are actually trained in all the criteria. They go and they look it up even before diagnosing you. They'll run through it to make sure they got the right diagnosis. You need to be careful. There are other comorbidities that come along and can be diagnosed with borderline, or can rule out borderline and just be two things together. And I'll explain comorbidities right now. I can't even say that word. If I'm saying any words wrong, please forgive me. Okay? We if we didn't go to school, I mean, they go to school to get their doctorate and or whatever, and they spend years learning this stuff. I have defined comorbidity. It's a noun, and it's the simultaneous presence of two chronic diseases or conditions in a patient at the same time. You're obese with diabetes. Those are two comorbidities. All right. My diagnoses are for my mental health, and this goes along. Yours can be completely different. Mine is borderline personality disorder, complex PTSD, major depressive disorder, anxiety disorder, and PMMD. Okay. This will present differently if you take this out, one of these out. This whole thing will present different if you take one out and add schizophrenia. Because you can have borderline personality disorder and then paranoid schizophrenia. You can have panic attacks. You can have, even autism. Okay? So when you're saying I'm looking up borderline, it's not as easy as that. Because they have to take the whole picture of all the diagnosis that they see, and they have to work it out. And they're trained to do that. And it's not just 2 years of regular school to do that. It's not just 4 years of school to do that. They put in a lot of schooling, a lot of hours, and then, like the practice that my therapist is at, what they do is they're like midline. They don't hold therapists that long. They're like, I'm on state. And so I go to the states thing. I get lucky when I get somebody who stays. But what happens is they're doing their, they did their internship, they got their degree, and now they have to get their experience somewhere because everybody wants experience. So they go to this place, and there's not as many opportunities to get more money. So they have to complete like 4 to 7 years to get experience. They go to where I am. Uh-oh. Am I still running? Am I still streaming, guys? Hello? All right, I had a bloop. Okay. Hi, Horatius. I had a blooper. I'm sorry. Sometimes my internet connection goes out, so I just wanted to make sure. So anyways, that's the whole thing with self-diagnosis, and people tend to self-diagnose. And in the thing that I'm not going to be showing today, it does have that self-diagnosis with things as not a criteria for borderline, but it's in that paper. So I just wanted to throw it out there that you really, really need to talk to a therapist or a doctor. And if you need one, in the US, 211 is the universal number to try to find insurance, even state insurance. They'll point you in the right direction. If you need insurance for that, if you need medications, if you need a doctor. And the psychiatrist is who, I just saw a comment. The psychiatrist is the one that diagnoses the medication. Therapists cannot do diagnosis. The therapist cannot do the medication part. You need an APRN or a psychiatrist. All right, the therapist and the psychiatrist and APRN should be working together for they're part of your mental health team. Like I said, you're the most important of your mental health team, a medical team, but they're part of your medical team, and they should be working together and on the same page. And they should also be working with your regular PCP, personal primary care physician. whoever that may be. So you basically, in this sense of the thing, with your mental health issues, you all four of you need to be on the same page. So you need to be consistent. One therapist, one psychiatrist, one doctor for years. Don't bounce around, because if you want to get right, this is the only way. Consistency. Now, do not take medications from other people. Ever, 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 ever. Not all brains are created equal. Not all bodies have the same exact ecosystem. Borderline, schizophrenia, there's a few others out there that tend to either ration their medication when they lose their insurance, or they'll go completely off their medication because they feel it's not working, or they take medications from others or give medications to others. You can't do that. Especially giving medications to other people, you can kill them because you don't know how their body's going to react. Only a doctor can give these things, and only a doctor should be giving them. All right? What goes along with that is, and this is only because I know firsthand that I've gone off my medications and I spiraled down. I mean, totally hit ground. There's reasons why I tell you, okay? Take your own medications exactly as the doctor's instructions state. I'm reading this to you. I wrote it last night. I hope it's understandable. Your psychiatrist is the only one who should be prescribing you those medications. Or an APRN can do it too. My last person before the psychiatrist that I had was an APRN. They could prescribe the medications too. And they're the only ones who can tell you how to take them. Most medications build up in your system and need to be started gradually at a time to see how your body reacts until the proper dosage is achieved, or until they figure out if it doesn't work. There was a comment at the beginning, the medications didn't work, so I stopped them. Well, the whole thing is if the medication isn't working and the doctor wants to see if the medication is working, they will up it a dose. I'm on the lowest dose right now of my Cymbalta. I know this is too low of a dose because when I was on it, for years and until September, the dosage was way higher. But I'm not taking it higher. I'm not taking it more than I should, only because I know, first of all, I know that this builds up in your system. And if I take too much of it, I can overdose on it. All right. Many medications build up in your system and stay up in your system as long as you're taking them properly. Okay? That means the Cymbalta that I was just saying. SSRIs are known for that. They're the serotonin, the medications that work on your serotonin. They have to build up in your system and stay in your system with you taking your medication to keep the even level, to keep your moods level, okay? If you're going off them right away, you're going to drop so low and you're going to get so depressed that you're going to go right down into a dark spot, okay? For a borderline, that is so dangerous because, like I said, there's a high suicide rate in borderlines, that you don't ever, ever, ever want to do this with your medication. And then cutting too. Don't do it, please. Please, I beg you. And I will tell you, if you try to follow the guidelines, you're going to feel better. Okay? I know things happen. You lose insurance, you lose a doctor, you have to find another doctor. Oh my God, I don't have the money to go and pay for this medication. I know stuff happens, but that's hold on. That's when you need to turn around, dial 211 or your doctor. Hold on, please. and say, listen, I need my medications. I don't have them right now. What do I do? I can't afford them. What do you suggest? And you got to follow suggestions. All right, and this is if you are not under your parents' insurance and stuff. You know, you have to go to your parents. If you're younger, you know, if you're under 18, and you're under your parents' roof, you really got to talk to your parents or another adult that you trust. Like I said, that's in your personal life. You can't really just take anybody off the internet and have them be your mentor. It's not suggested, put it that way, because not everybody's nice. Like I tell my daughter, not everybody's a nice person. That's the high risk we tend to do, high risk behaviors. So anyways, many medications interact with each other. Not only do they interact with each other, many interact with things that people will say is naturally occurring in your system and can be taken with your medications. Beware the natural medicine healer who does not tell you this. Any vitamins and supplements you take, natural or otherwise, needs to be revealed to your doctors, to your psychiatrist, to your therapist. Why? You can kill yourself taking somewhat psychiatric medications. Bottom line. Bottom line. I read a paper last year about borderline that did a study with my comorbidities that the serotonin was created in your gut by using omega-3, melatonin, and L-tryptophan. Now, I do not take things unless I look them up. The omega-3 was fine. I asked about the melatonin only because I know you use melatonin for sleep, and I was already on trazodone, and I didn't like it anyway, so we switched those out. But that came from my psychiatrist telling me I could do that. The L-tryptophan, when I looked it up, has its own warnings on it anyway. Now, if I had taken that, I could have sent myself into serotonin syndrome. You can die. You can die. So the L-tryptophan was left out. Even though L-tryptophan is a naturally occurring thing in your body. It's found in foods and stuff you eat too. So instead of that, I opt to have a turkey meal. Or whatever else contains L-tryptophan, but I don't overdo it. I do it like once a week or twice a week. You got to be very careful. I mean, you got if you're in our little group with Kevin and stuff, if you're a raccoon, we all know about the natural medicine healer, one of them, and then there's another one that does colloidal silver. No, colloidal silver can hurt you too. So you got to stay away from those people selling you those quackery things, okay? And you got to really divulge anything. I mean, I give my psychiatrist when I go, I'll give her my multivitamin container, my BC complex container, I'll give her all the containers, my melatonin, and she writes it all down and she looks it all up. I even when I was doing I was on a program with, what was that? Isogenics, which is a weight loss or, now it's just natural health thing, to sustain your health and all that. But she looked up every ingredient that was in the stuff that I was using before I got the okay to use it. Because of this. I do not want to kill myself. I tried 3 times. The last time I woke up in ICU. God has me here for a reason. I'm not going anywhere. My daughter needs me. It's not a legacy. If you have children and you're borderline and you are suicidal, what type of legacy is it to leave them if mommy or daddy commits suicide? You got to think of that. It's no kind of legacy to leave your kid. It's very hurtful. It's what my parents basically did to me in a different way. I don't want my daughter going through that. Now, as hard as it is, and some people may be already addicted, and that's something you're going to have to discuss with your therapist and doctor. Don't, okay. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Personally, I stay away from illicit drug and alcohol use. Many persons diagnosed with BPD have inhibitions where they should not be. Okay? Meaning we take chances. We do stupid shit. We don't think about what we're doing. This means placing themselves in risky behaviors of self-harm, not just with suicide attempts and cutting, but also increased risk of diseases. And I'm going to be open and honest. Many borderlines are very promiscuous. Multiple sex partners. What are you doing when you sleep with a bunch of people? Not at the same time, that's just gross. Well, some people might like it, but that's just gross, to me. But what are you doing? Do you want herpes? Want AIDS? Throw a little bit of other things in the mix and then get pregnant on top of it, right? I mean, there's much to be said, and I'm going to put this out there because I never talked to my aunt until I had the talk about sex with my aunt when I was 49. I never had it when I was younger. I would rather say that I've been with one man and one man only my whole life. But it's not the case when you're looking for love and you're looking for somebody to love you and you never had a man in your life ever that you could trust. Father, brother, anybody. I mean, I could trust my uncles. I could trust my brother for the most part. I could trust my uncles and stuff. They were father figures, but they weren't living in the same house as me. So when you're looking for that love that you always have been out, you got to think there's difference between love for the moment and love for a lifetime. Love for the moment is nothing. Love for a lifetime matters. And that's what I mean when I say I wish I'd been with one man and one man only. All right, anyways, increased risk of being emotionally traumatized even more. I can sit here and I can say, I slept around, those guys hurt me, oh my God, they left me, poor me. But I'm the one that opened my legs to them. I hurt myself. I abused myself. I sexually abused myself in that area. And I didn't think. I traumatized myself. Did I do it on purpose? No. Nobody does that stuff on purpose. You got to change your mindset and you got to realize what you're doing. Believe it or not, there are not nice characters who will take advantage of a person who's already down and has problems. Now, I had this occur. I'm not one for just blaming people for anything. Even my therapist was shocked that I wouldn't blame the person for a sexual thing that he did. Taking advantage of somebody who was already traumatized. It was called sexual coercion, I guess. I'm not going to get into it because it's embarrassing. But I try to look at where I'm responsible for certain behaviors. And I won't accuse people just to accuse them. It's not that people do that either. I'm not trying to say that because that sounds mean to me. But anyways, and let's just get off that subject. But anyways, when you're sleeping around, you're chancing risky behaviors. When you're drunk, you do stupid shit. Okay? People do stupid shit all the time, but when you're drunk, you got more of a chance to do stupid shit. And we see it every day. We don't need to really bring it up. We don't mean to be like this. It's intended, it's indeed something occurring within the brain that is making this happen. It's like lack of inhibitions. I always say, as far as my alcohol use, I'm an alcoholic. When I was in my 20s to 30s, like I said, I was a perpetual drunk. Say no, I stay in control. Just say no. I'm in control. It's not I'm sober, I'm getting sober. I prefer to stay in control. As much control as I can when I have a mental health condition. All right? That actually puts me in harm's way to begin with. Now, those self-harming behaviors could also mean that you don't budget, you overspend your money, you spend your money on useless things that you don't need. It can also be overindulgence with eating and having eating disorders, binge eating, stuff like that. It could be in numerous other areas. It's not just sexual. It's not just, other things. It's just, it could be a lot of things that would I'm nervous, so I'm sorry I'm talking about this. I'm nervous. So anyways, I'm gonna get off the subject because it's hard, because I don't want to tell people to what I'm not telling you what to do with what you know don't think that I'm telling you not to do it. I mean, you are in control of what you decide to do. I am pro-choice. If you decide to do it, don't be surprised if you have more problems, is what I'm saying. Caffeine, and I'm like, you should practice what I teach here. Okay? So it's just like with the drug and alcohol use. I'm telling myself, stay away from caffeine, and I'm not doing it. Okay? Caffeine is probably one of the most abused legal substances there is. When young adults, teens, it's almost told that they need the caffeine for better performance, to stay awake, to do better in school, etc., etc. Energy drinks, monster drinks, soda, coffee, even teas. The best way to study and to retain the information and not be tired is to drink plenty of water throughout the day, getting enough sleep because of the sleep study I mentioned, which was really neat to read, brain growth, pruning till at least 1 year. Okay, I messed up. Yeah, I already mentioned the studies on sleep. I mentioned how your brain grows a little bit, the pruning, with the last stage around 27. Your brain actually, if you're not overweight and you can do it, when your brain's grown, it actually needs the like the fats that's in whole milk. That's what I give my daughter. She don't drink no caffeine. Yeah, that said right. Yeah. Oops. No, she will tell you, ever since she was 2, she would go, you drink water, milk, Gatorade, and juice. And then when I tried to get her to say it on camera one time, because she was 2 saying this, she, Emily, what do you drink? Not coffee, she said. And because I drink coffee, but and her brain is amazing. She remembers everything. Now it's just a matter of getting her to get plenty of sleep to get the brain going. So if you have a question with what you hear me or others say, and you want to put things in practice, or you want to know a little bit more and you're not sure, the best place to ask the question is to your therapist or your psychiatrist. Friends and family may mean well, but are not reliable source to get any information on mental health issues. All right, that's the last of that one I wanted to do. That's basically the advice I have right now. I gotta close that now. Are you guys still with me? I'm checking chat now. Now it's like chat and coffee. Yeah, coffee and chat. All right, are you still with me? So anyways, bottom line is there's a lot of things that can hurt you. There's a lot of things that can help you. And there's a lot of things, you know, I'm not telling anybody what to do. I'm just sharing things that would help me. And help me, that might help other people out there. It's a good time to have borderline, even though you don't want it, you know? It's a really good time. I just want to refresh my drink, so I'll be right back if that's okay. Now, what with the coffee and chat? First of all, I wanted to ask you, how did I do? Did I confuse you, anybody? Did I say things wrong? I didn't offend anybody? I wasn't offensive, I hope. Like I said, this is just for information. Is there any suggestions? Well, yeah, because who are racist, they do. A lot of times, my psychiatrist asked me about everything. All my doctors ask me about smokes. So, oh, yeah, alcohol can react with meds horribly. The reason why I made the points that I did in this presentation is borderline personality. Those with borderline personality disorder, these are the dangerous things for us. And some people that are watching this need to know, A, they're not alone, but that these are risky behaviors, and if they want to live a better life and they want to get out of those dark moments and on the even keel, it's really best to do some things to help yourself. There's nobody that's going to hold your hand through your feelings all the time. I've had many dark times where I've cried alone in a corner. There was one time when my husband was abusing me, I was crying underneath the sink. Okay, and there's nobody there to help when you're crying underneath the sink at 1 o'clock in the morning and your husband's yelling at you and looking for you and wanting to beat you up. Okay, so when you're in a cognitive state to where you can understand this stuff, my suggestion is to write things down and then try to use it as a mantra. You know, telling myself, you know, for when I was quitting drinking is, oh, I'm an alcoholic and I'm recovered. I'm a recovered alcoholic. No, that didn't work for me. It kept me into the thinking, oh, I want my drink. So what I like about not drinking, I had to write down what I liked about not drinking. I'm in control. I'm not sleeping around as much. Well, I'm not sleeping around at all. I made the choice. I made the choice to be totally non-sexual. And that was within the last year. The first of things first, I really wasn't sleeping around anyways because my daughter, I don't want a pregnant teen. And I've noticed that a lot of single mothers that do sleep around end up with pregnant teens. And a lot that didn't sleep around didn't have pregnant teens. So I just made that observation for me and for me only, because it could always happen still. Even if I'm doing everything right, it can always happen. So it's not that they were bad parents, it's that, I tried to weigh the reasons and, you know, trying to eliminate things. It's like I try to weigh risks of things. There's one thing with the borderline that I don't know. We don't know. And that's EMF. EMF waves, electromagnetic fields from different objects in the room. You hear a lot about them if you're an electrician. You hear a lot about them for other things. And then the recent towers that went up, you hear a lot about it. Which I won't mention. They're, EMF waves, they use it with paranormal investigations. That's where I learned from them. And I know for me, one time my therapist witnessed this, and this was kind of cool that she witnessed it because she knew I wasn't lying. I mean, some of the stuff I tell her is kind of out there, but it's like I look at her, I go, I'm not schizophrenic, and this is what I witnessed, So, one of the things is we had like a tornado come through, just a small one, like a EF0, but I was at the therapist with my daughter and with my therapist when the tornado warning came through. And we decided to cut it out early because of that warning, and I had to walk across the street. I didn't want to get caught in the pouring rain because I walk right across the street from my therapist usually. I'm lazy. And what had happened was when the cloud was coming through, when it was just starting to come through, all the hairs on my body stood up, and you could see it, and I showed it to, and I started feeling that electrical charge, and I started panicking. I gotta get home. I gotta get home. No, 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 no. We gotta go. We gotta go. Oh, you can stay here. No, no, no. We gotta go home. We gotta go home. She wanted me to stay there, but I'm like, no, I'm gonna go home. So, anyways, and then like 2 minutes later, 2 seconds later, the cloud came through. The tornado thing came through. So, there's some sort of energy that apparently that I'm susceptible to being a little bit sensitive to. Some people are sensitive, some people are not. That's all that means. It's nothing paranormal. It's quite normal for people to feel stuff like that. And I do a journal. That's one of my coping skills. And so anyways, what I did was I redid my bedroom. And I took every single electronic device and I moved it away from the head of my bed. You know how when you got a nightstand and you usually keep your clock radio there? That's all the way on the other side of the room now. I tried to eliminate any possible interference with any type of EMF waves when I'm sleeping to give me nightmares. They haven't proven that works. You ask Kev, and Kev is like, nah, that's a bunch of BS, which, it could be, it could not be, But if there was, to me, and only me, if there is the slightest chance that my radio, even with the little amount of EMF it gives off, is going to maybe affect my inner electricity from working right, and there's a question about it, and all I have to do is just nothing stupid, nothing like drastic, just move don't charge my phone near the head of my bed, and I can do that across the room too. I mean, doesn't it stand to reason that if you eliminate all those sources and it's a little bit healthier for you? I haven't had a nightmare since I did that. Not one nightmare since I did that. So, yeah, Horatius, the thing is, we get pounded by EMF all the time with our computers and stuff. And, oh, did I explain what borderline was? Jack, it's a mental, I didn't explain exactly what it was. I just did a little bit of the history and stuff, I think. Borderline's a mental health condition, and it's a very debilitating in people. I never even explained it, did I? I did? Okay. I can't. I'm like confused. I'm nervous right now. But EMF near the head of your bed is, it it actually eliminated my I haven't had a nightmare. Maybe once or twice in that. Yeah. So, it's not that they keep me awake. It's I have okay, complex PTSD. I want to explain that really quick. Do you guys have time to explain, for me to explain? Because a lot of people don't understand the difference between BPD, I mean, not BPD, but PTSD and complex PTSD. There's a difference that a lot of people don't realize in, they think, oh, well, no, it doesn't. And they're looking to change, Jack, they're looking to change that name. Because I know when people think borderline personality disorder, it means that you have borderline multiple personalities. It isn't. It's just, it's a mental health condition. Yes, I did explain it. Thank you. Um, it's named borderline from way back when in the 70s. Um, the people that the criteria didn't really fit bipolar, and it really didn't fit schizophrenia. It was somewhere in between the two. Hence, it borderline both. So they called it borderline. But they're looking to change that, I believe, that term. Because a lot of people think it means that you're borderline having multiple personalities. And, it does sound like that, The other stigma is that we're very angry and we're very psychotic. Okay. Yes, we display anger. We get moody, and basically it's when we're triggered. All right. That's the difference. That's one of the differences that I looked up yesterday. Not yesterday, the day before yesterday, was the difference between, one of the major differences is borderlines will have a trigger that triggers their anger. Bipolar do have triggers, but they're not as triggered. It's not just when they're triggered that they go into a depression or an anger fit. With borderline, there has to be a trigger, whether we're triggering ourselves or somebody else is triggering it. There's always a trigger for it. It's not the only thing, but that's one of the differences. Another difference is, with bipolar, the ups and downs, the highs and lows can last from weeks to months. With borderline, it's up and down every day, not weeks and months. I don't know. I mean, I'm planning on actually wrapping it up if nobody has any questions or nobody wants to stay and talk. That's fine. I'm done with the information. I don't know how to, that's one thing, I don't know how to end things. I'm a talker. When I talk. So, what time is it actually? I have things to do before my daughter gets home. Oh, it's only so anyways, that's basically, does anybody have any other questions about what was talked about today? Oh, Eric, I'm not brave. I'm just trying to help other people because I see a lot of people damaged and distraught when they hear the diagnosis that I just got a diagnosis of borderline and I'm spiraling down. It's not a diagnosis that you're not, it's not like a terminal illness. You're not going to die. Don't let it make you spiral into a dark moment. There are dark moments, but don't let it do that to you, because there's hope. Especially when you're younger, there is DBT and CBT therapies that help rewire the brain. That's true too. When I tell you anybody of my personal experience, it's not oh poor me, by the way. So I have to deal with it anyways. It's my reality. All right. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go so that I can let you all go too. How many hours have I been, I mean, where do I find how long I've been streaming for on my thingy? Oh, that's a long time, isn't it, Horatius? I think I should I'm done making the points. I hope I explained everything correctly and understandably. If anybody is listening to this that is a mental health care provider or a doctor and I've said anything the wrong way, please contact me. Either in comments through the YouTube, and I can learn how to say things in a better way without saying it wrong, because that's not my agenda is not to be wrong. I want everything that I say to be true and to coincide with what psychiatry and doctors feel. And with that, I'm going to get going. You all have an excellent day, and thank you for watching, and thank you for supporting me. This really meant a lot because I was nervous. Have a great day.